heaven.
Hallowed be thy
Hallowed
name.
be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine art the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever.
Amen.
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 Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News, and some of you may know there's currently a major truck convoy clogging up the streets of Canada's capital city, Ottawa. The convoy has come from all corners of the country. It started in opposition to cross-border vaccine mandates for truckers, but now it's grown into an avatar of a movement against COVID-19 lockdown restrictions that just don't make any sense 2 years into the pandemic. You can see all of our coverage from the inside of the convoy, but also from inside the protest as it continues in Ottawa at convoyreports.com. But besides the convoy to Ottawa, there are smaller convoys in other cities and smaller towns all across this country. And there are border blockades now. And right now there's a blockade happening at the main crossing between Canada and the United States in Alberta. It's at the Coutts, Alberta, Sweetgrass, Montana border crossing. Truckers and cowboys and farmers are on the border right now protesting the lockdown restrictions in both countries. So Rebel News sent 2 intrepid reporters down to the border late Sunday night. They drove the 3 hours from Calgary, Alberta, to get you the full story about why the truckers are there, what the truckers hope to accomplish, and to show you what the mainstream media is getting wrong. So joining me now from Skype, from the Coutts, Alberta border, are Rebel reporters Sydney Fizzard and Kian K2 Simone. Guys, tell us what's happening there. What do you see on the ground today?
Take the lead on this one? Yeah, well, we've seen a lot, to be honest. I mean, we started off the day really early, and I mean like 3 a.m., where everyone was sleeping, everyone was resting. There was the fire pits left out from the night before, but it was really quiet. So we took an hour nap, and we came back, and slowly things started to come to life. We started talking to more of the truckers, and we found out as the day progressed how there were, of course, the truckers. We knew this before, but there were the truckers who were in the convoy and in the blockade, and there were the truckers who were just kind of caught in the mix of it. And it seemed at first that there was a lot of tension between the two groups, but as we asked these people who were expressing, that they were upset about the situation or that they were happy about the situation, everyone seemed to be in support of what they were doing regardless. It was just that some people wanted to get out of the way so that they could move on to other things. So, and that really progressed into the day, and we saw there was one meeting that before they opened up a lane so that people could exit who would otherwise try and get on their way, they had a big meeting, and all the truckers here who have their trucks out there and supporters alike, they were all gathered here in this building that's beside us, and it was very much so like a family meeting. There was a lot of emotion, and of course, a lot of people, they have their lives on the line with these decisions being made, especially these decisions being imposed on them with these mandates that are coming forward. So, of course, it was very emotional, but they decided to open up the lane. And then after that, all the people who were very upset about the fact that they were being locked in, they were then praising the people who were doing the protesting. So it was nice to see that. And it set the stage for the negotiations that happened later, because the authorities did send negotiators to talk with this group and to find a solution that works best for all parties. And so it was really interesting to see in the first meeting, they were all yelling and they were all mad, not necessarily mad, but they wanted to have a proper resolve that met everyone's needs. And then that later meeting, they were all together talking as a sort of single body towards these negotiators, because there isn't actually a leader of this organization. This is just the grassroots, and it's literally the grassroots that are standing up and saying enough is enough. I think sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you, Kian, I guess we're talking about negotiations, but really we should talk about what sort of necessitated these negotiations between the authorities and the truckers, because yesterday, Sunday, our Premier Jason Kenney said that he opposes this blockade, even though he hasn't spoken out against a truck convoy to Ottawa. And he said what they're doing is illegal and it needs to stop. And so today, you guys caught it. The police have sort of circled the convoy. And the tow trucks are there, or they were there. So tell us sort of what you're seeing with the authorities and the clash with the truckers.
Yeah, so it all started this morning at 6:30 a.m. We actually had you on the phone at the time. We were filling you in that a gentleman drove up on us and said, "Hey, can you start waking people up? The cops are coming." And obviously at that point you have to remain skeptical of okay, how do you know this information? And we found him inside, and he actually showed pictures that he counted 44 different RCMP cars plus 4 tactical units that were on their way. And we started getting more footage, and the word got around, and that's when the tension, I think, really started between tension between themselves, and then tensions with the other truckers who were stuck in gridlock, essentially. And that's how the negotiation started there, because the RCMP, they set up a checkpoint around. They even blocked the dirt road, the second way in per se, with the train, and blamed it on crew work. But really, we know they were using it as an excuse to make sure that more supporters couldn't get in. But the most important part about it was these truckers, they need food, water, and most importantly, on top of that, is medical supplies, which we didn't really clue in until after that. There's people here with heart conditions who were dependent on family and friends bringing their medication to them, knowing that they were going to be here for a while, and they can't get that.
Because of the authorities.
Yeah, because of the RCMP. So that's why when Syd was talking, they opened up that one lane. They did that in good hopes that the RCMP would open up those checkpoints. And after the negotiating meeting, they said, we'll hit you in about an hour or two. And we're about 10 minutes until the 2-hour mark. They haven't said anything, haven't opened up, and only residents of Coutts are able to leave town. So we aren't even allowed to leave, essentially. Like we're on lockdown, ironically.
And I should mention too, the people of Coutts, they're actually going and getting these supplies, whether it be medicine, but mostly food and water, and they're bringing these things over because they're allowed to go to and from. So even though the authorities won't let people bring in supplies, the townspeople here are actually strongly in support of what's going on, and they're getting the supplies and bringing them back.
Now, Kian, you also mentioned something off camera to me. The cops are allowing the mainstream media in, but not allowing friends and family to bring in medical supplies to the truckers.
That's correct. CTV Global and Canadian Press were here. CTV and Global, they drove around. They talked to the angry truckers who were obviously mad that they were stuck in gridlock, rightly so. And then they went into town and talked to the angry locals. And Canadian Press actually walked in, and they talked to people, and their questions were great. But yeah, they were allowed to come right through. They had no issues, obviously. And the protesters, the truckers inside, they actually brought that up to the police. Why the hell is our medical supplies not coming in, our food, our water? We need to eat, drink, and take these things to survive. But mainstream media can come in. And that was when they actually pointed out, and we now have the clip of them saying, we only want Rebel here. They're the only ones telling what we have to say. Like, they're the only ones that we trust, basically. So I thought that was a very interesting development that the RCMP is letting that happen.
Now, Syd, there's a real commitment from these truckers to remain peaceful. Some of them did say the only way we're leaving here is in the back of a cop car. But it's been prayerful and peaceful. And I saw even in some of your footage, they have images or signs that say bless the police. So they really don't want to be in confrontation with the police whatsoever. They just want to go back to normal.
No, yeah, absolutely. They want normal. They want to end these mandates and have that life we used to have back in 2019, without a doubt. And I think the most violence I actually saw, and I actually don't mean to harp on this individual because I understand how much stress there is in this situation for many parties. But one of the people who wasn't part of the convoy or the gridlock, he was just stuck in it. He was very upset because he couldn't leave at the time. And he actually was wielding what some would call a weapon, a big metal rod. And we interviewed him before we saw him wielding that weapon. And he was obviously very upset. And then afterward, after the lane was opened up, we interviewed him again, and he was the happiest guy on the planet, and he was in full support of what these guys are doing here. So I find it funny that this narrative of these guys being violent and angry is being propagated. And in that video where I believe you referenced, they were yelling and very flustered with each other. They were very much so acting in a family matter, quite literally. they all pretty much love each other and they want to do what's best for everybody in this situation. And they're not doing this out of aggression, this vocal anguish, but they are expressing themselves. And we saw later on in the negotiations how they really did come together, and it really showed you how connected these people are to each other.
And if I could add one point to that, I think the most inspiring and the most beautiful thing that happened today actually was when they opened up that one lane. The truckers were coming through, they were honking, they were happy, and one guy rolled down his window and he looked mad, but he pointed at us and he said, "Don't open the effing border." He was stuck there for 3 days. He couldn't see his kids, he couldn't see his family. He was eating, donuts and burgers and coffee for 3 days straight, sleeping in his car, in his truck, and he still had the understanding and the support for these guys who are blockading the border.
Now, one last thing before I let you guys go, because you guys are running on 24 hours straight of working, no sleep, no food. You guys need a burger, and it's cold. You guys are also in a snowstorm. It was whiteout conditions earlier today when you guys were outside working. How do people find your work, and how do they support the great work that you're doing down there?
Well, let me answer this one real quickly. Convoyreports.com, and also check out Kian's Twitter feed because he's absolutely killing it with social media right now, showing the world what's going on in real time. He's doing a phenomenal job, and I can't wait for this video because I know he's going to be editing it, and I know it's going to be gold.
Yeah, so we'll be making a masterpiece of this, so we'll hopefully have it up for tomorrow. And like you said, it's Syd Fazard on Twitter and myself, Kian Simone 44. The story was progressing every 5 minutes. It was evolving, and we couldn't really we could report on it, but we wanted to get the story out so that people couldn't twist it. So we said, let's just do Twitter. Let's just say exactly what's happening, and thank God it did get the traction it did, and now the entire world is watching what's happening here on the Coutts border.
They feel it here. They feel that international support.
Well, I'm so proud of the work that you guys are doing. It's a great honor for all of us to be trusted to tell the stories of normal people when everybody's lying about them. And I know that that's exactly what you're doing. And I know the truckers appreciate the fact that you guys are there to capture what's really happening instead of what the mainstream media says is happening. So I'll let you guys get back to it. Thanks so much for your hard work, guys. And we'll check in with you guys very, very soon.
Thank you, Sheila.
Sounds good.
The Rebel News team is covering the convoy for freedom in all parts of this country, from Ottawa to the southern border of Canada with Montana, to support their independent journalism and to see all of their reports that you will not see anywhere else, to see the side of the story the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. Please visit convoyreports.com.